Well, good morning and welcome to another week on my allotment. And unusually, in fact uniquely, it's a working day. It's just before 5 o'clock in the morning. It's Friday, and at 8 o'clock I've got to be in somebody's garden to cut the hedge and mow the grass. But I thought I'd come up and get ahead of the game, so I've come up to do a bit of watering. I've come up to watch that, much to my wife's disbelievement and amazement. So yeah, I've got a couple of hours to do a bit of watering, and then back into Chepstow, back to work for about 6 hours, and then I shall be back out and the watering will be done, and I'll be able to get on with a bit of hoeing when the ground is dry and dusty. So yeah, I've already done about 3 or 4 wheelbarrow loads or carts, and I'm gonna make a cup of tea now, enjoy this, and then I'll crack to with a bit more watering, and then we should go and do our walk on Saturday. Running out of new places to go, so we might have to retrace our steps a little bit, and then I should be up here all day Sunday hopefully. And because I haven't watched, they review the rules every 3 weeks on a Thursday, and because I don't watch the news, I don't yet know what's happened yesterday. I always find out from my customers. They like to talk about it, and I'm happy to, so I find out from them. So I've no idea what's going on right now. I'm hoping it can only go one way, but we shall see. But yeah, welcome along for the video. If you haven't subscribed, please do, and I hope you find something of interest. Oh, that's the water boiled for my brew, and as the sun really does get up in the sky now, it's glowing a real vivid orange. It's a lovely time to walk the plot with a cup of tea first thing in the morning, because it gives you the time to slow down and just look. And so, you notice that the broad beans are now getting nice big succulent pods. The pea alderman, the flowers are setting, and it's a real picture of beautiful lime green and white flowers. The potatoes look verdant and healthy. The onion bulbs are swelling. It's a lovely thing to look around at the blueberries. The fruit is swelling, not turning a dark purple yet, or blue. Yeah, it's a stunning time of year, and all that hard work you put in through the winter into the spring and all the watering, it's really looking now like it's paying dividends. The butternuts and the pumpkins are just starting to recover in the ground from the shock of being transplanted, and that brings me on to a point. Something I've learned is that I've really worked this year on hardening off plants before I bring them out. I bring them straight out of the greenhouse, get them in the ground, and then wonder why they shrivel up and suffer. So everything that's come up this plot from a greenhouse at home has been hardened off for at least a week, and then I put it in the ground. And I mentioned about the broad beans going sort of a yellow colour at the base, and other plants doing the same. And my concern was that it was all this well-rotted manure that I'd sifted and put on a lot of the beds as a top dressing, that there was something in that from the farmer that wasn't healthy to plants. But I watched a video, and one of my subscribers left a comment what was it, about Epsom salts, for which I thank you. And I did a little bit more research, and there's a chap online, a chap in America, talking about what makes plants go yellow, and he talked about nitrogen deficiency and so on. But he said overwhelmingly the biggest culprit is transplant shock. You know, it doesn't matter how well you look after your plants and how well you harden them off. You take them from that small cocooned environment from which they germinated, and you put them into the ground, into different soil, different temperatures, different sunlight. Everything about their new environment is different. And of course they suffer a shock, however slight and temporary. And I have to say that without doing anything, the broad beans have now completely greened up, and they're absolutely fine, as are all the other crops in general. So yeah, I've discovered something this spring, and that is transplant shock. And I'm learning to relax about it all a bit, do as much as you can, treat the plants well, give them a good environment when they're in the greenhouse, harden them off slowly, bring them up, put them in the ground, give them a good drink. For the first few days, water them in. But they are still going to suffer a little. They're set back, particularly the butternuts, the squashes I find particularly do look really poor. But come June, everything goes off at a sprint. So yeah, as I stand here now and the sun comes up and my water has boiled in the on-site flamethrower, everything's looking good. Very good. This is my time of the day. Nobody else is ever up here at this time. I think Terry's surprised me once in the winter, in the dark. And Barry gets up here occasionally about 6:30 for an early start. But other than that, yeah, it's lovely. Welcome along. As is now becoming customary, I thought I'd give you a little bit of niff, naff and trivia. I don't know how I came across this, but around the world, 4 babies are born every second. So 4, 8, 12. You see how quick that is? So it's 250 babies every minute. 15,000 babies every hour. 360,000 babies every day. That's almost mind-blowing to think of that. Just that while I've been speaking, several dozen babies have been born. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. If not a disaster for mankind and planet Earth in the future. But anyway, lovely for the parents. And a little quiz for you, and I'll give you the answer at the end of the video. There are 2 countries in the world that have the word "the" in their title, officially. So I'll give you a clue before you'll go dash in for your phones. The United States is not one of them, because "the" is not officially in the title of that country. So there are 2 countries in the world with "the" in their title. Can you guess what they are? There is no prize. I'm not going to lavish you with gifts and money. It's just interesting. So yeah, stay away from your mobile phone. Get off that phone and have a think, see if you can come up with any of them, and I'll tell you at the end.
Which way am I supposed to go? Across these?
Yes, you're doing the right way.
Towards us. Do I have to go across that though? Or...
No, down, drop down.
I don't think you see anybody climbing.
good morning. And it's another early morning, as I predicted. Sunday morning. It's 4:45. Up here nice and early. Again, got a full day. Just going to make my first brew of the day. There's something else I've noticed. To get here, the quickest route for me to get here on these early mornings is down through Chepstow Town Centre. And of course it's Sunday morning, and in ordinary times I would be going through the town when all the revellers have gone home and are starting to sleep off their hangovers. And the seagulls move in because there's fast food litter everywhere. And the seagulls are mobbing the bins, the street where everyone drops their detritus. And there's, sometimes there's tens, if not hundreds, of seagulls in the town centre, all squabbling and squawking and making a noise and distributing all the litter even further afield. But in these extraordinary times, there's no rubbish because there have been no revellers. So the seagulls are going without. I mean, I'm imagining the health of the seagulls suffers with the food we eat the same as our health suffers. So I don't know what the seagulls are doing. Having said that, I have noticed that because people are in their gardens more, we get a lot more seagull mess on our car and our drive. The seagulls have moved in to town more. I guess people are feeding them in their gardens. And a seagull nowadays, unless it's on the coast, is more like an airborne rat. But people feed anything, don't they? They think they're doing them a favour. Of course, they're not. But anyway, just something I noticed that coming down from town this morning. I managed to put that out. It's very quiet. No seagulls, which is a good side of this, of which there are many. Oh, no, we're off again. Anyway, I just mentioned that. And I've had a walk around my plot. And something that I should have noticed before, but I haven't, is a lot of my onions are almost as small as the day they were planted as sets. Now I'm going to put that down to, the drought. I haven't heard the word drought on the telly yet, but I haven't been watching the news, so where the hell would I hear that? But there's no doubt, if it looks like a drought, it smells like a drought, and it sounds like a drought, it's a drought. Yeah, so my onions, some of them are okay, depending on the variety, and others haven't moved. In fact, I think, let's go and have a look at that. So, an onion called Sturon. They were planted in here as sets on the 29th of February. And there's one there that looks okay, but if you look at that, 29th of February, and it's the 1st of June today, that has, apart from putting on a little green shoot, that hasn't moved. I don't really know why I've not made a note of that before, but just walking the plot this morning, it occurred to me that this whole bed, they really have not moved. Whereas these, called Astur BC20, odd name, these were planted nearly a month later. The beds are at either end of the plot. However, same type of soil. They've been watered the same. Been in exactly the same conditions, and yet these are swelling up and looking as I'd expect them to. Odd. This courgette plant in one of the blue tubs is now developing its first courgette, and the flower was a beautiful thing, and then it wilted and started to look a bit off, and I've come along this one and I've picked the flower off. I find that if you leave the flowers on, they rot down, and very often they rot the tip of the courgette. So, once the courgettes really get going, I probably won't have the time or the inclination, but at this early stage, if I see a flower start to wilt, I just pick it off and throw it on the compost heap. and thus preventing the tip of the courgette from rotting. But that's exciting, the first of hopefully many courgettes. Some days I'm so busy watering that I just don't stop to look, and this morning as I wander my plot, these peas, which have been very, very small for a long time now, you know, obviously I've noticed the flowers on them, but now I've got peas setting, and that's lovely. And they're all doing very well. I mean, they were all planted at different stages, so the ones on the left over there, these ones here, that was the first lot I planted, then a guttering of that, then these, then this row here, and finally that row there. So they'll all harvest at different times. That's the plan, and it's lovely to see. When you stop and look, you see more. Exciting times. Well, I'm always looking for ways to improve the way I grow my fruits and vegetables. I sometimes have success and sometimes I don't. However, one of the things I've never quite got to grips with is growing celery. And although this year, touch wood, without tempting fate, I've had no slug and snail problem, barely a nip out of any of it, and I think that's because the ground is like cement at the moment. It may change when the rain comes, and the rain will come. However, one of the things I've never really managed to grow with any great success is celery. You put it in the ground and you water it. It's a bog plant, it needs to be kept moist, so lots of watering involved if you're getting no rain. But inevitably the slugs and snails nibble at the celery. So when you take it home, instead of that pristine clean stem that you get in the garden centre, there's all these little brown marks where the slugs have been at it. And it's, you know, it's just not nice to eat. I mean, I tended to put it in my juices or my smoothies. Oh, there's two hares dashing across the golf course. So this is my next plan. Now it may or may not work, but what I've decided to do is grow the celery in these large pots, keep them clustered together, and they're in this big drip tray thing, and I'll keep this drip tray full of water, and I'm going to sit it out in the sun, and I know from experience, because these have been in these pots about a week now, that the water dries out inevitably. However, I'm going to try this, and because there'll be water in there, that should keep the slugs and snails away. It's like a moat, and I'll see how it goes, and I'll let you know. I did a similar thing with the radishes. I tried to grow them in the multi-cell trays, and it worked to a degree, but the radishes were very small. There wasn't enough soil, and they couldn't expand enough. So you know, we ate the radishes, and they were unblemished because the slugs and snails hadn't got to them. But they grow much better in these little, I've got a galvanised tub there, and they've been almost golf ball size. They've been lovely. So I'm not going to persist with the radish experiment, but we'll see how this goes. I mean, it'll take a few months to come back and be a yay or a nay, but I'll let you know. So this is my next trial. Well, as the sun rises on this Sunday morning, I'd like to share with you another of the bits of niff, naff and trivia, and this time it's about the phrase peeping Tom. We all know what a peeping Tom is, and it has quite a fascinating and interesting origin. So if you'll excuse me reading, it'll take a minute. Here we go. The expression has a wonderful origin connected to everybody's favourite naked horsewoman, Lady Godiva. During the 11th century, the Earl of Mercia, Leofric, was one of the three great English earls, and he ruled a vast area of the country. In 1040, according to legend, he tried to impose heavy taxes on his countrymen, and there was uproar in the streets. Leofric's compassionate and charitable wife, Godiva, sided with the people and begged her husband to lower the taxes. He told his wife he would lower the taxes after she had ridden naked through the streets of Coventry. Now Godiva was a game girl, and her hapless husband hadn't reckoned on her spirit, so she agreed to the challenge. Not surprisingly, the people of Coventry were delighted, but as a show of respect, all agreed to stay indoors, close their shutters and face the other way as the lady passed by. All of them kept their word, except Tom the tailor, who couldn't help himself and peeped out through the shutters. How did anybody know that he peeped out through the shutters? There must have been a peeping somebody looking at peeping Tom. Anyway, I think that's a lovely little story, and well done to Lady Godiva. Good on her. I don't know if he did lower the taxes, unfortunately. Well, it's 6 o'clock. I've done a bit of watering and I'm going to make a second brew. But I thought the light is so good and the wind is calm, so I thought I'd have a wander down the site. Starting at John's plot here. It's a thing of beauty. Everything's looking luscious and growing well. He spends a bit of money, and and that's a good thing. It's his hobby, so he invests in his allotment, and he's got a lot of netting, and he's bought grow bags for the tomatoes in his little polytunnel, and it's a pleasure to see. This is Kay and Julie. They've really turned this around this year. They've worked hard at it. Busy private lives, grandchildren and so on. I hear her speaking to them on the phone because they obviously can't meet at the moment. But yeah, a lovely little plot. Then we come to Lima. She's even got a fantastic hanging basket on her shed. And she's got a cracking polytunnel. Always produces masses of tomatoes in that polytunnel. Please excuse my shadow as I wander along. Terry's been up here recently, getting stuff planted. The polytunnel's looking good at the moment. So it's good to see him back on site. Then we come to John. John of the Immaculate Plot. Even his sweet peas are flowering now. And it says here, welcome to my garden. He doesn't have a garden at home, and so you can see why he gains such pleasure from it here. Not only is he a lovely guy, it's a bloody wonderful plot. It's immaculate. Can you imagine if you had a site of John's? It would win awards hand over fist. Another naval term, I believe. Right, Steve and Nikki, looks like they've been up yesterday, I'm guessing, because all the grass has been cut. They've got a lot of crops in this year. It's good to see. It's looking very good, and they've finished off their greenhouse, and I can see through that I don't know what it is, polypropylene, polyethylene plastic. You can see there's plants in there. The one blot on the landscape, but even here, I'll give him his credit. That looks a lot neater than looking at all the weeds and having to deal with the seeds from the weeds. Enough said. And then my plots. So, on this wonderful Sunday morning, where I often have to look up and just admire the beauty of the location, and I'll do the lower plots another time, but it's a wonderful place to be. Well, it's mid-afternoon, and I am just about done in. My back's aching. I've had a hat on all day and I still feel the sun's got to me. And I don't want to be accused of complaining. We are desperate for water, for rain. Because you can water the plants all you like, but if you're a gardener, you understand that you can't compete with proper rain. Rain just, soaks down into the ground, and the roots can take it up instantly. Whereas when you're watering, you've really got to soak the stuff to the point where there's puddles, and then that water stands a chance of getting down before it evaporates. But anyway, I've watered everything today, even the outlying blackberries. Everything's been watered, lots of it twice. Lots of weeding as always, and I've got some odds and sods, some more cauliflowers, some more broccoli that were in trays, and of course they're in small pots and they keep drying out, so I've got those in the ground. I think I've almost got all the flowers in. There's some marigolds that are still in the pot or in pots. But yeah, a really good day. The plot, in fact, Maggie from one of the lower plots walked up this morning, and I've said to her before that it's a very brown plot I've got, and she said, it's starting to look green rather than brown, which I was happy about. So yeah, very happy with the way things are going. There's some strawberries to pick just before I go home. The broad beans are on the cusp of being picked, so very happy with the way it's gone. And before I finish, as I said I would, I'll let you know the 2 countries in the world that have the word "the" officially in their name, and that is 1, the Bahamas, and 2, the Gambia. So either 1, you don't care and you never bothered thinking about it, or 2, you cared so much you looked on your phone and you found the answers on the internet. But either way, thank you for watching. Please subscribe and hit the thumbs up if you haven't already. And again, as not much has changed, I shall see you next weekend. Look after yourselves. Bye for now.